Welcome back to the Twin Times Podcast, episode 34. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Aimee Huxley. We talk about her work within the screen sector.
Start off, working for free, eventually got paid work, and eventually started to navigate my way through my career and work my way up the ladder.
And then we also talk about her thoughts on disability representation within the film industry.
It's been a real shift, particularly recently. You've got a lot of big name studios actually using authentic storylines and using actors with disability, and actually considering what makes a story real and authentic.
Ultimately thinks it's going to be heading. Other than that, let's hop into the episode.
You want to get in, Charles? Yes. Hello, Aimee.
Nice. Hi, Charlie. Lovely to meet you.
So, as you can see, we are twins.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I heard you guys, I've told you already, Lewis, but I heard you guys speaking at the Disability Summit, which was such an incredible event. And I was like, I've got to get in touch with these guys. So I want to be on their podcast. I think we would have a really good conversation. So,
the dreams come true, hasn't it? So that's the way.
You guys did so well though. It's hard to speak publicly on a stage like that. So but you delivered you delivered your messages really well.
Yeah, I think we all did on the day. I think Sarah, Charlie and I, Steph, I can't remember the other girl's name. Who was sitting at the end. Yeah. She worked for Fremantle Media or something. Right. I can't remember. But we all delivered our message in a inspiring way, which is great. Should we crack on though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Aimee, and maybe a little bit about your disability as well?
Yeah, so was a senior production manager in the television industry. I say was because I've just recently changed career towards the end of last year. So I was in the screen industry for over 14 years. Nice. I have low vision and I'm a guide dog handler. So towards the end of last year, I started my own business. It's called Inclusive Consulting. So I'm a disability access and inclusion consultant in that business. And then aside from that, I'm also working with guide dogs now in that role that I've described. It's called a community mobilizer role. So essentially I'm working within the social change team, and we're running campaigns on key issues of concern for the low vision and blind community. And we're basically going out into the city and trying to advocate for change in those particular areas of concern. So it's a little bit about me and the kind of roles that I have taken on recently.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good to get into this and find out a little bit more.
Yeah. What was the feelings when you first found out about your genetic disability? What were the feelings that you were going through at the time?
Yeah, when I first found out about my rare genetic eye condition, it was a massive shock because I've always had issues with my eyes from a child. I had really strong glasses and I needed eye patching when I was young. I had one operation when I was 3. But I never knew that I had an actual issue with the anatomy of my eyes. So basically my eyes are genetically smaller than the average eyes and they didn't develop properly. So when I found out, it was because I experienced a sudden decline in my vision in 2021. And then next thing I was being told that I had this genetic eye condition. And it had kind of been all of the dominoes effect of eye conditions that I had that followed it were a repercussion of an event that happened. And that basically because of my genetic eye condition, it caused this dominoes effect of other eye conditions to come on because I was at higher risk of experiencing those. So I think when you find something out like that, so much is going through your head, especially if you're not connected to the community. I didn't know anyone else at the time that had low vision or blindness. And so it was a very scary time, and I was just so fearful of like going blind, and like, yeah, I was just kind of like struggling every day, to be honest, to kind of come to terms with that, and just trying to get through the next appointment and the next appointment to find out how it could possibly be treated to slow down like the degeneration process. So yeah, I think like you go through all this process of like grief and sadness because there's certain things that you can't necessarily do anymore. Like, for example, driving, but obviously there's activities that we're trying to make more inclusive so that we can still do these things. And you know, there's some incredible Paralympians, so we can definitely say that we can do a lot of things. But there's certain things like driving that you at this moment in time cannot do with like my level of vision. So there is that kind of grieving process that you go through because you can't experience things in the same way that you used to. So yeah, and that alongside like just the fear of the uncertainty and not knowing how much vision you'll lose and how quickly, super scary time, and like very stressful and difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say not only scary but extremely stressful. Probably when you found out about all this. Yeah.
What are the daily challenges that you go through with having low vision?
You said one of them was not being able to drive.
Not being able to drive, but is there any other struggles or challenges?
Yeah, challenges with having low vision. So there's a lot of physical challenges in terms of the amount of energy that you use to get from A to B. Like you have to make sure that everything is like planned, you know, down to the T to figure out how you're going to get there. And from the environment to, so navigating your environment, but also like the transport to get there, and then how you're going to be at the other end, like who are you meeting and arranging with them a meeting point. And if you haven't met them before, then like I usually ask people like what color are you wearing, and you know, rough description so that I can find them, because I have enough usable vision to be like, okay, I can see like a semi-tall guy with like a blue shirt on or whatever, and then if they're in the like around the vicinity of the meeting spot, then I know that it's probably them. But yeah, that's a big challenge, getting from A to B and navigating environments that you haven't been to before. So events, conferences, being on set for TV, and things like that. And then other challenges with low vision is like inaccessibility of certain things, like, for example, presentations, like at work. Like if someone's screen sharing and like they don't kind of describe the content that's in the presentation sufficiently, they're not describing the images and things like that, it can be very inaccessible. And yeah, you just walk away from it not having been involved to the level that you should have been, because those considerations haven't been taken. That's just one example of inaccessibility. And then I think the third one is attitudinal barriers as well, like people assuming, like especially in my role, because like I've been in the industry for over 14 years and I continue to do my job throughout the challenges that I faced. And yeah, my thing was I'll do more face, like during the bits where I was recovering from surgery, where my vision was, significantly impacted, I was like, I'll do more face-to-face, I'll do more calls, like I'll do more meetings, like it will be fine, I can still get my job done. But I think there was some attitudinal issues there, just using that as an example of people assuming that you can't fulfill your task or can't do your job to the same level that you used to. But you just need to do it in a different way. That's all. Yeah.
Would you say in that community of people that have maybe low vision, is there a community that you can go to kind of talk about your problems and mental barriers with having this genetic disability?
Yeah, definitely. Like there's a huge community on social media. So like after I kind of went discovered the community in 2023 when I started kind of creating. So right at the end of 2023 in December, I decided that I was going to start creating content in the niche of service dogs and low vision. And in the process of doing that and kind of coming out and putting that content online, I started to reach all of these people and find all of these people that were coming up on my algorithm that aligned with my values and what I was trying to do. And so we've actually formed like a community group. We get together, like there's one particular group we get together like once a month, and we all meet and talk and stuff, and it's so nice. And otherwise we all just kind of engage with each other's content. Like we sometimes do, like there's a few of the girls that I do one-on-one Zooms with, and we catch up and like, you know, just sip our tea and like catch up, and it's so nice. And the thing is, it's like not always about your eyes. Like sometimes you're just chatting about life, like you do with friends.
That's right.
No, I think I really wish that I'd found the community sooner, because it would have really helped me in those challenging times to be able to speak to someone that had also had a diagnosis that could be like, I completely understand how you're feeling. You're going to be okay. Like you're going to get through this. There's ways that you can adapt your life and still continue to thrive and still continue to do all things. So that's kind of also why I do what I do, and why I'm passionate about it, is because I want to reach those people that haven't found the people yet, and like they need that like community and support to continue to like live their life to the fullest.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
We all want a bit of human connection in our lives.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you found that through your community. Tell us a little bit about what you do or what you did in the film business, and maybe a little bit about your time working in the UK as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I started off working. So when I was still at college and back in England, college for us is like once you finish your we call them GCSEs. I think you call them GCEs. Could be wrong.
Is that high school thing?
Yeah. So when you finish high school.
I think we call it HSC here.
Yeah, that's right. So once you finish those, we in England do 2 more years of study. Anyway, so during that time, whilst I was at college, I started to just do some like work experience in the industry. I started off on like corporates because that's how I could kind of get my work experience. And then once I finished college, I went in and started doing one-day shoots on music videos, commercials, promos, and really just a lot of it was unpaid for like expenses only, which is totally illegal now. But back when I was starting, it was very normal. So I just started off by building my experience that way. And then one of my kind of secrets is that whenever I would work on a shoot, regardless of the size, regardless of who it was, and whether it was a feature film or whether it was a student short film, I would always take people's contact details, and then I would always follow up with them. And because you never know where those connections are going to lead. And in one of those people that I reached out to whilst I was working as a runner was ITV Studios came into our studio to film a Peter Andre music video.
Okay.
And took their contact details, followed up with them, and ended up getting a job at ITV in their creative department as a runner. So everything kind of like led, like I had to start off, working for free, eventually got paid work, and eventually like started to navigate my way through my career and work my way up the ladder. I've always been in production from about 20 years old. I've always been in production. So that's kind of, my department of specialty.
How did that gravitate to you coming down under, to the land down under?
Well, I came over here when I was 22 and I did like a gap year thing, did a working holiday, and I actually got offered a job at Endemol Shine. I was a coordinator at the time. And anyway, it didn't eventuate because I didn't realize that the whole industry shuts down here between November and January. I didn't realize that
keep what do you always say? Creativity is like a muscle. You would always keep working at
you
it.
always
So.
gotta keep working at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, so I didn't realize that the industry was going to shut down anyway. So the choice was I could do this job in, I think it was end of January, and wait in Sydney for 3 months, or I could go travel. So I went and traveled. And then, but when I was traveling and working, I fell in love with Australia. And then I was like, I've got to come back and work in the Australian television industry. So went back home, worked my way up to production manager, and then came back out as a production manager to Australia. Landed my first job with Eureka about 3 months after I arrived. And yeah, like was in back-to-back contracts from then until December last year. So for 6 years, I've been in back-to-back contracts even throughout COVID, which I'm very lucky.
That's very
Even
good.
during COVID.
Yeah.
Even during COVID, I was very lucky. I was in post-production at the time. So we, just before the borders shut, we got all of our rushes back from America. And so we were able to continue our schedule as planned. And yeah, it was pretty incredible. It was very, very lucky. There have been obviously gaps in my, like small gaps where I've had to take time out for health reasons. But otherwise it's been, yeah, like back to back, or took like a month or two for health reasons. Yeah.
Wow,
so yeah, it's been great.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. How long did it take you to become production manager when you went back to the UK and did all that and then came back here? How long did it take you?
Well, so from the age of, so I started off when I was like 17 and I became production manager when I was 25, I think. So that's 25. So that's, God, I can't even do quick maths, 8 years.
Yeah, rough. Yeah, that is 8 years. Yeah, I can't do quick math either. Luckily, we figured that out.
But I think, like, I think a lot of what I've seen like lately is that people really want to jump straight in at the high levels. And I think there's so much value in really starting off and learning from grassroots, the industry, because it gives you a much more broad view on work, like just the industry in general, but also like how each department works and how each role works. And like, in order to be a good leader, you need to understand how each role functions and what each role, like, individual needs to do to succeed in that role. Yeah. And I think as well, like, I've always operated with like no hierarchy because I've been at every level, and like I spent about 3 years in each level, like 2 or 3 years in each level. So it's like you build up that appreciation for every single person on the team. And yeah, regardless of whether someone's a runner or whether someone's an exec, I treat everyone the same. And I think, yeah, it's like a respect thing as well. And I feel like that's really, really important, like when coming into this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's good to I think it's good to learn as many departments as you can. Yeah. If you want to become a DP, for example, or work towards becoming a production manager, it's good to be able to work within grip department, production running, camera, lighting, all of that, to sort of know the ins and outs of what's going to be happening on a set. I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But also like to try and find your area, like where
as well. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like to try and find out where your skills are, like where you thrive the most, like what you're most passionate about. Because I think that that's so important to really to pursue what interests you most and what you're passionate about most, rather than what you feel is a safe option. Like, because that will actually lead me on to maybe a question that you might ask me later. But yeah, would be some advice on that front.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll wait for that.
Yeah. Let's get back on the question. What is the biggest differences between the Australian film industry and the UK film industry? What are the biggest differences?
Yeah, so biggest differences. I would say that the UK has very broad and diverse content. like I would say that the UK is very good at doing period dramas, is very good at documentaries, and also coming up with a lot of big formats as well. Yeah, I feel like the UK just has a very wide and diverse like pool of program making, and I think that that's great because like as a working within it, like it's nice to be able to have choice. Like if you can, like when you first start out, you kind of have to just take what you can get and to get experience, but I think it's nice to actually be able to think, oh, okay, actually I don't really want to, reality is not my thing. Like I'd rather focus on, wildlife documentaries or something like that. And there's lots of them. And that's the thing. It's not like once in a blue moon you come across a wildlife documentary, like there's whole production companies that focus on that. And I think, so UK, there's a lot of independence. Whereas I feel like Australia, there's like the main production companies, and there are a few independents popping up now. But you mainly have your solid like big conglomerate companies, and they're generating all of the kind of like formats that have come from overseas mostly, like and revise them slightly, like your MasterChefs, your Married at First Sight, your The Voice, and they've kind of all come from overseas, and they've been tailored slightly to make it the Australian way. So I'd say that's the biggest difference. There are some like documentaries starting to be made in Australia, but I'd say not that many at the moment.
Yeah. Hopefully we gear towards more of that.
Absolutely. Do you believe that the Australian film industry needs to come up with more original content and not much reality TV shows? Do you think it would bring value or be valuable to the Australian culture?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the country does need more original Australian content. I think it's not necessarily that the original content isn't being written. I think that the issue is that there's a massive concern over actually getting those programs commissioned. And, there's a huge issue with streaming services kind of dominating the market at the moment. And Screen Producer Australia, they're advocating for more original Australian content. And they're trying to work on at the moment some regulation over those streaming services to enable producers to make them more original stuff, but definitely would add more cultural value to Australia for people to see that culture like through filmmaking. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. We need more original stuff down here. And I think Stan helps with that quite a bit. It's like our biggest streaming partner over here.
Yeah.
Which is great. What was the biggest learning curve that you have gone through?
I think probably the biggest learning curve was navigating like the way to be within the industry. I think there's a certain like language that you have to use. There's a certain way to approach things. And I think if you can learn those ways to be, you'll keep getting more jobs. Appreciating different levels of the ladder as well is one of my original things I was saying. I think things like learning how to be a great team player, having a can-do attitude, but also making sure that you have boundaries as well so that you're not exploited, turning up early, which is actually on time. So someone once told me this when I was a runner. They said, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're fired. So
I was told that my first gig.
Well, you were?
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I think just like learning all these ways, and like when I first started, I was doing these really formal emails, like, writing like cover letters, like it was like like I was reaching out to a corporate, and that's just not the language that we use in the industry. And I think, like learning the power of networking and the power of like connecting in relationships with other people in the industry is really, really important. And also just being really humble in like where you are at in your career as well, and appreciating that it takes time to build the skills and to move up, and like you can never learn too much. So it's like having always being curious about what someone else is, obviously making sure you do your own task, but then kind of proactively asking if you can shadow someone else. Maybe it's an area that you're really interested in, or, and just always wanting to learn more and listen. I think those are all really important things.
Yeah, we're all constantly learning whenever you're on a set. It's always something new you're learning. So you should always be like a sponge and absorb as much information as you can. Yeah, because it'll help you out later on. Let's talk about disability representation. I feel like it's going from a bit of a boom at the moment. Do you feel it's being better represented now than it was maybe 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel like there's been a real shift, particularly recently. Like, you've got a lot of like big name studios actually, using authentic storylines and using actors with disability, and, actually, considering what makes a story real and authentic to the audience. And I think that we are starting to see more of that, a lot more like diverse representation in movies in general, like across not just disability, but, culturally and in all aspects. So, I think that's really positive, and I do think it is going in the right direction. I think, like, with continued advocacy and people passionately kind of trying to educate people on the value, like not only like morally and ethically, but like also the commercial value of like including everyone, because audiences want to see themselves on screen, and they don't want to see an actor who doesn't have the lived experience pretending to be something, like they want to see themselves and it to feel real. So I think that, and then that in turn like widens the audience and creates like better awareness, because they'll want to share about that if they really enjoyed it, and so I think that actually creates commercial value.
Yeah, it sure does. And I think who was it? Sebastian Stan was won a Golden Globe. It wasn't for A Different Man, but I don't know if you've watched that movie, A Different Man.
No, I've not seen it yet.
No, but it is quite good. It's an authentic story, and it's around disability and things of that nature. He didn't win the Golden Globe for that film.
But he talked about it.
He talked about it. I think he won for The Apprentice, maybe.
Yeah, he won for The Apprentice,
which was a great film.
Yeah.
He played Donald Trump so well.
Okay,
but
take that one.
Yeah, he spoke about having more inclusive storytelling and authentic filmmaking come into play. And I think we're starting to slowly see that happen. It's going to be a slow bridge to build, but we'll get there for sure.
Yeah.
And that sort of goes into the next question. I think we need more authentic stories on our screen. I think you could agree to that.
Yeah, most definitely. And for those reasons that we discussed, really, it's like we need more of it because it is representative of society. Like I think it's 1 in 4 people have a disability in Australia. If you're talking about disability representation in particular, like, people want to see themselves on screen. People want to see it done authentically. And I think, and it's just so important, like it's part of inclusion, like giving people equal opportunity to be involved in productions, filmmaking, whether it's behind camera or in front of camera. So I think it is really important that people start considering that when they're starting to plan their productions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just saw on social media last night, I don't know if you saw it, this is going to be big, which Bus Stop Films are an inclusion partner on that. It's going to be streaming on Netflix. Which is quite, I don't know when that's coming out, but I just saw that and I thought, oh, that's really good. And I think that was spoken about at the summit that we were at, from memory. Be more networking events to help disability representation, like the summit we attended.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for like a, not only like on a professional level, but also like to meet like-minded individuals and to offer people also opportunities to collaborate, I think is really important. And just the value of networking in general in our industry is one of, it's one of the strengths in kind of finding opportunity in career. So I feel like, yeah, having more events that actually opened up to the broader community would be amazing. And I think like just walking into the disability summit was just, well, it was called the Driving Change Summit, wasn't it?
Yeah,
A couple of
yes,
names.
it was.
But
Tracy will watch this, so we better get it right.
yeah,
Driving
Driving
change.
Change Summit. There you go. Hi, Tracy.
Yeah.
No, I just honestly walking into, I've said this to Tracy, but walking into the event was just like getting a warm hug. Just have so many people so passionate about the screen industry, all in one space, all just kind of almost like supporting each other. And it was such a great environment. And yeah, absolutely. Like I can see great value in having more events like that.
Yeah. Do you wish you were asked to speak at the event or give your sort of advice about the industry?
Look, I'd absolutely love to speak at a future event. Definitely, because so I found out about the event because Steph Dower and Chanel were on the board for it, and that's how I found out about the event. But yeah, like I'd absolutely love to speak at a future event, definitely. But I found it invaluable, just being in the audience and listening to everyone else's unique perspectives. And I took so many notes on my phone. I was just like, this is just, I just found it great, the whole thing. Yeah. Everyone did so well as well, articulating what they wanted to say. And it made me very excited about the future for particularly disability representation. Yeah.
It's all going to lead to great things.
It will,
Yeah.
absolutely. This sort of leads into the next one. Where do you feel the film industry will ultimately, where do you feel it's ultimately going when it comes to disability representation?
Yeah, I definitely think that that the film industry is going to grow in terms of disability representation. Like it kind of has to, like that's the way that you see, big name brands are all already doing it. Like if they didn't do it in filmmaking, they would just, it just wouldn't be right. Like I guess everyone needs to move with the times, and people are starting to see the value, and people are starting to see that disability isn't a negative limiting word, that there are lots of talented and skilled people with disability, and that we actually need to like show stories that represent how we live life. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Because like life is full of challenges. I can't even talk. Life is full of challenges, and like I think it's important to show all people in the community within stories because it feels more real.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's only going to keep going, keep thriving
Absolutely.
into the next 5-10 years and forever.
Yeah.
And like, oh God, sorry, I almost choked. What was I going to say? There's like it's slowly going into advertising. There's like a what was that casting called?
Shift
20, and I think they spoke at the summit as well. And more and more brands are looking to have people of disability to or neurodiversity to be within their advertisements.
Yeah.
So to see that already starting to happen, and to see that maybe in a couple of years' time, it might be a film that person gets put into. You never know where it can lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like about doing it in the right way, isn't it? Like it's not a tick box exercise. It's not that people should be doing it out of tokenistic efforts. It's that people just need to recognize that the talented people out there that might happen to have a disability, but they're incredibly talented and skillful, and like just like everyone else. Just because they have a disability doesn't change the way that they should be perceived. So yeah, I think that's really important, that it's about skill and talent, and it's about the value that individual can bring, to a production, to a movie or campaign.
Well, Aimee, you've been a great guest. We're up to our final question. I really hope you've enjoyed yourself. I think a lot of people get value out of this episode. I think even maybe Steph Dower might watch it. Who knows?
Yeah, Steph's great.
Yeah, she is great. Yeah, she was great at the summit. She was great to be in contact with, and it all went swimmingly. It did. So I think she was happy at the end.
Yeah,
but
wow. What an effort! She did such an incredible job producing all of the sessions. Wow,
it was an amazing effort, and I think every person she got on for the sessions really helped drive the session that they were doing. So it was the right picks, which is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you could give some advice to your younger self who's just starting out in business as a runner or working their way up, what would you say to that young Aimee Huxley?
I would say, Aimee, take time to think about what it is that you really want to do. What are you really passionate about? I kind of briefly touched on it earlier, about what are you really passionate about? Don't jump at, yes, when you first start, you kind of take a few different jobs in different areas because you're trying to find your feet. You're trying to find what's, where your best skills lie and all of that. But I think I definitely chose stability, which I think we all kind of naturally lean towards as humans, and we want to feel, that we're going to have consistent work and all of that. But I think it's really, really thinking, what am I passionate about? And it might take you longer to get into the department that you're really passionate about, but it will be worth it in the long run to actually pursue that. So I think, with anything, if you're determined enough, you will achieve success. But you just have to keep persevering, keep networking, keep working hard, keep seeing opportunities, trying to learn, and you will get to wherever you want to go. So yeah, I think just pursuing passion over safety. And I think it was one of you guys, and I could be wrong, but I feel like you said at the summit, feel the fear and face it anyway. Did you say that?
Yeah, I did. That's not a saying. That's a saying I've ripped off my mother. She's always said that to me. It's like a saying within our family. Whenever we were nervous about something, especially when we were first starting school, she would always say, "Shoulders back, feel the fear, do it anyway. Just go in, conquer the day." And we've always sort of lived by that motto. So that's really Carol's quote. So we love her very much.
Quote from Carol. I love it. Yeah, no, it's really, really it's a really good one, because you can apply that to it. It's just go all in into what you're passionate about, basically, and just keep pursuing it. And you will eventually, if you're determined enough and you're persistent enough, you will get there. So that'd probably be my advice to myself, because I think I played it too safe.
Yeah. Well, it's led you to this.
My career.
Well, it's led you to this, and it led to this podcast interview, and it's been great to interview you and to have you on as the first one for the year. Great way to kick off the year. Thank you, Aimee. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
Aimee.
Thank you, guys. It's been really great. Thank you for having me. And hopefully this leads to, us having a good connection going forward, and see what happens. I'm sure you'll see you at plenty more events in the future.
You will. Absolutely, Aimee. Take care. Right?
Nice one, guys. Have a great day. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
What a great conversation we had with Aimee Huxley. She was an absolutely great guest to kick off 2025. If you want to learn more about Aimee and her work, a link to all her socials will be in the description below. And if you want to learn more about Twin Times, a link to Charlie and I's socials will be in the description below as well. Other than that, this has been the Twin Times podcast. If you're on Spotify, if you could give us a rating out of 5 stars and a follow. And if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Other than that, we'll see you in the next one.